What happens when the man who built the business from scratch realizes he no longer recognizes the people keeping it alive? Isaiah Kellan sat in his office, staring at the sales reports from Store 14 downtown branch, busiest of the lot. Numbers were up, but complaints had tripled in the last 6 months. He'd built the coffee chain 10 years ago with a single cart and a dream to make a place where people mattered, staff and customers alike. Somewhere along the way, he'd stopped walking the floor. Now he barely knew the names of the people behind the counter. He shifted in his chair, jaw clenched. "This isn't what I built," he muttered. District manager had assured him everything was under control, but Isaiah didn't trust second-hand words anymore. Not when the last report said an employee walked out mid-shift crying and no one could explain why. He made a decision right then. The next morning, he ditched his tailored jacket for a faded hoodie, trimmed the beard down to stubble, and threw on a pair of thick-rimmed glasses. His assistant helped set up a fake resume and a new name, Illy. With 14 locations and over 100 employees, it wasn't hard to disappear into the system, especially at a store where he'd never shown his face. Store 14 had staff scattered across shifts, and a few new hires who barely knew the company history. Most of them had never met the CEO, and the ones who had seen his face probably remembered him from old press photos, bearded, suited, and 10 pounds heavier. Now he looked like a scruffy guy just looking for hours. He walked into Store 14 pretending to be a trainee. The place was packed. Coffee orders flew across the counter and the air smelled like burnt espresso and sweat. "Yo, new guy," a voice called out. A slim guy with dark hair and a half-zipped apron waved. "I'm Jonah, you with us for morning shifts?" Isaiah nodded. "Yeah, Illy." Jonah gave him a quick once-over. "Cool, don't screw up and we'll get along fine." His trainer barely explained anything. Just pointed at machines, shouted over noise, and rolled his eyes when Isaiah asked questions. He brushed it off. He wasn't here to impress Jonah. By noon, he'd already made 2 bad lattes and dumped a whole bin of ice accidentally. "You gotta move faster," Jonah barked. "This ain't a library. Give him a break," a voice said from the other end. A young woman with curly auburn hair and tired eyes looked over. "It's his first shift." She wiped her hands and stepped in. "I'm Olivia. Here, watch me steam the milk." "It's about sound and feel, all right." Isaiah followed her instructions, hands steadying. "You used to work coffee before?" she asked. "Something like that," he said. She smiled faintly. "You'll get it." Over the next few days, he noticed patterns. Jonah barked orders but rarely did anything himself. He disappeared during rush hour, only to return with a smoothie from the shop next door. He picked favorites, mostly ignoring the part-timers and giving Olivia the hardest tasks: openings, closings, double shifts. Isaiah watched Olivia work through a back-to-back weekend with barely a break. She joked with customers, helped coworkers, and stayed late to clean up Jonah's mess. One night, Isaiah stayed behind after they closed. Olivia was mopping. "Why don't you say something?" he asked. "About Jonah not doing his part." She looked up. "You think anyone's listening? You could talk to the district manager." She laughed, bitter. "He's Jonah's cousin. I already tried." Isaiah's stomach turned. The next morning, he arrived early. Olivia was already there, unlocking the door. Jonah came in late. Again. Later that afternoon, the store got slammed. A school had let out early and teens flooded in. Olivia was taking orders, Isaiah was on bar, and Jonah vanished. Isaiah was punching in drinks when he saw something strange. Olivia was whispering to a coworker, a short girl with shaky hands and red-rimmed eyes. The girl, maybe 19, looked like she'd been crying. "You okay?" Isaiah asked quietly when the girl passed by. She didn't answer. But 10 minutes later, Isaiah watched Olivia pull out her wallet behind the counter and hand the girl a folded bill. "It's for the medicine," Olivia whispered. "Don't worry about it. Take care of him." The girl nodded, eyes filled with tears. "Thank you." Isaiah froze. He didn't move for a full minute. Just stood there, holding a cup, watching as Olivia turned back to the register like nothing happened. Medicine. For someone's child. And Olivia, who was barely getting enough hours, was paying for it. Isaiah clenched his jaw. He'd seen enough. The next morning, Isaiah arrived 15 minutes before open. The sky was still gray, the street outside slick from a light rain. He stood in front of the glass doors, watching Olivia inside restocking the pastry case. No Jonah yet. No surprise, he knocked gently. Olivia looked up and motioned him in. "You're early," she said, not looking up from the tray of croissants. "Figured I'd get ahead of the rush. Didn't sleep much." She let out a quiet laugh. "Join the club." Isaiah stepped behind the counter and began prepping syrups. "That girl yesterday." She looked rough. "She's been working doubles at the gas station on her off days," Olivia said. "Her kids got asthma and she lost state coverage last month. I tried giving her my manager's number for extra hours, but he never called." Isaiah didn't respond. He just kept wiping down the syrup bottles, his hands moving slower than usual. At 6:50, Jonah finally strolled in with a paper bag from the taco joint around the corner. He didn't say anything, just dropped it on the back counter and scrolled through his phone. A moment later, a tall man in an olive coat walked in. He had a clipboard and an expression like he was already bored. "Health inspection," he said, flashing his badge. Isaiah's heart skipped. Olivia immediately straightened her apron. Jonah didn't move. The inspector started with the front. Floor was clean, machines wiped down, pastries covered. Olivia had already done the morning checklist. Still, the man frowned as he checked the temperature logs on the fridge. "These haven't been updated in 3 days," he said flatly. Isaiah glanced at Jonah. He was still on his phone. "I'll fix that," Olivia said quickly, grabbing the clipboard. The inspector didn't look at her. He moved to the back instead. 10 minutes later, he was back up front, holding a worn-out thermometer and a dripping mop bucket. "The walk-in has standing water." "And someone left raw eggs on the top shelf," Olivia flushed. I haven't been back there since Monday." The inspector raised an eyebrow. "And who's responsible for back-of-house prep?" Jonah finally looked up. "I usually handle that." The inspector scribbled something down. "You'll hear from us in 72 hours. As the door shut behind him, Jonah cursed under his breath. "You know he's full of it, right?" he said. "They're all out to get us, bunch of useless." "You didn't update the logs," Olivia said, her voice quiet but steady. Jonah turned. "What? You're supposed to rotate the fridge logs every shift. You didn't," Jonah scoffed. "I've got more important things to do than play clipboard babysitter." Isaiah set down the syrup bottle. "You're the shift lead," he said. "It's part of your job." Jonah laughed sharply. "Who made you store manager?" "No one," Isaiah said. "But I know what happens when someone gets sick off spoiled milk. I've seen lawsuits take down whole chains." Jonah stepped forward. "You want to run this place? Be my guest, see how long you last." Isaiah didn't flinch. The afternoon rush hit harder than usual. 2 team members called out, 1 sick, 1 no-show. That left 4 people to run the floor. Olivia didn't complain. She floated between register and bar, calling out drinks and ringing up customers in a rhythm that kept the line moving. Isaiah stayed on bar, hands moving faster than they had all week. Jonah disappeared again. By 3, the espresso grinder jammed. The line stalled. Olivia ducked into the back, came out with a wrench and fixed it in under 2 minutes. "You ever think about becoming a tech?" Isaiah asked, watching her reset the machine. She laughed once, bitter. "I applied twice, never got a call back." He didn't ask why. At 5, a woman in a wheelchair rolled in. The cafe had a ramp, but someone had left a delivery cart blocking it. She waited outside, looking confused. Isaiah rushed to the door and moved the cart. "Sorry about that," he said, holding the door open. "No worries," she said. "I come here every week, just not usually this late." He helped her settle near the window, then returned to bar. Jonah walked in from the back, biting into a cookie. "You moved my cart," Isaiah nodded. "It was blocking the ramp." Jonah rolled his eyes. "She could have waited or gone somewhere else." Isaiah's jaw tightened. "That's not how it works." Jonah shrugged and walked off. Isaiah turned to Olivia. "Has he always been like this?" She hesitated. "He used to be better before he got promoted." "Why do you think that changed?" She wiped the counter slowly. He stopped being scared of losing his job. By the end of the shift, the trash was overflowing, the sink was clogged, and Jonah was nowhere to be found. Again. Olivia took off her apron and leaned against the sink. "Want me to stay and help finish up?" Isaiah asked. She shook her head. "You've already done more than most," he hesitated. "You're not going to get in trouble, are you?" She gave a tired smile. "I always do, doesn't matter." He left that night with a knot in his chest. At home, Isaiah sat at his kitchen table in the dark. He didn't turn on the TV. Didn't check his emails. Just sat in silence, thinking. The company had grown fast, maybe too fast. Somewhere along the way, he'd started hiring middle managers who knew spreadsheets better than people. He'd trusted the wrong ones to protect the culture he'd worked so hard to build. And now, a shift lead who ignored safety protocols. A single mother handing over her own money to keep a coworker afloat. A tech-worthy employee passed over for reasons no one could explain. He picked up his phone and dialed his assistant. Pull Jonah's records. Attendance write-ups, complaints, everything, quietly. "Yes, sir, anything else?" Isaiah looked out the window. Rain had started again. "Get me the district manager's contract. I want to see who hired him." The voice on the other end hesitated. "That might raise flags." Isaiah's tone hardened. "Do it anyway." He hung up and opened a notepad. He wrote down 4 names: Olivia, Jonah, the girl with red eyes. The manager's cousin underneath, he wrote one word: accountability. The next morning, he went in an hour early. Olivia was already there, prepping filters. He walked to the back, opened the employee fridge, and scanned the contents. Expired yogurt. An unlabeled container of tuna salad. No rotation labels on half the items. He took photos of everything. At 10, the district manager walked in. Broad-shouldered, short goatee, sharp tie. "Where's Jonah?" he asked. Isaiah stepped forward. "Still late, again." The man gave him a once-over. "And you are?" Isaiah didn't answer. Not yet. The rest of the shift passed in silence. When Jonah finally arrived, Isaiah asked him to clock out and wait in the back. He complied, confused. The district manager raised an eyebrow. "You don't have the authority to do that." Isaiah pulled off his glasses. Every head in the room turned. "I'm Isaiah Kellan," he said, voice calm but firm, "and I've seen enough." The cafe went dead silent. Isaiah turned to Olivia. "Take your break." She stared at him, then nodded and stepped outside. He turned to the manager. "We need to talk, now," and they did. In the back room, Isaiah laid out everything: the health violations, the discriminatory comment about the wheelchair customer, the absentee behavior, the retaliation against Olivia. The district manager tried to deflect. Isaiah stopped him cold. "You're done here." Effective immediately. Jonah was next. Isaiah read off a list of dates, incidents, and customer complaints. Jonah didn't argue, he just sat there, stunned. "Turn in your key," Isaiah said. "You're dismissed." He left without a word. Isaiah stepped back onto the floor and called the team together. "Things are changing," he said quietly. "Starting today." No applause, just wide eyes and stunned silence. But Olivia, standing near the register, met his gaze and nodded once. And for the first time in a long while, Isaiah felt like he was back where he belonged. The next day, Isaiah entered the cafe without the hoodie, glasses, or alias. Customers were already queuing up with half-lidded eyes and earbuds in. He noticed a few glances from the staff as he stepped past the counter and into the back, but no one stopped him. Olivia was tying her apron beside the dish sink, her expression unreadable. He waited until she finished and approached quietly. "I wanted to talk to you before the shift starts," she straightened. "About yesterday," he nodded, "and about what comes next." She didn't cross her arms or raise her eyebrows. She just stood still, waiting. "I've already made calls," he said. "You're being promoted to interim shift lead." Effective immediately, she blinked once. "You're serious?" "I don't hand out those words lightly." She shook her head slowly, like she was trying to make the thought land. "I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything. Just keep doing what you've been doing." Her voice dropped slightly. "What about the others? The ones who have been covering shifts, cleaning up messes, getting overlooked?" He nodded. I want names, not stories, not complaints, names of people who keep this place running when no one's watching. I'll meet with each of them. She glanced toward the front where the espresso machine hissed. You should talk to Connor. He's been working doubles to cover for people who no show, and Danny's been trying to get moved out of register for weeks. She's got tremors in her hands. It's nothing serious, but she's better on prep. Consider it done. He stepped aside and let her walk toward the front. She didn't smile, didn't thank him, but she moved like someone who'd just been handed back a little self-respect. By mid-morning, Isaiah had pulled the district files. The one who'd hired Jonah had a paper trail miles long. Missed store visits, falsified inspection reports, and a string of internal complaints quietly closed with no follow-up. The connections ran deeper than just family ties. There were overlapping addresses, shared bank transfers, and irregular bonus approvals. Isaiah phoned legal. I want a full audit of the district team. Start with payroll. Look for anything that doesn't line up. An hour later, Connor walked into the break room, still in apron, wiping sweat off his brow with a napkin. Isaiah waved him over. Sit down a sec. Connor hesitated. Am I in trouble? No. I just want to understand something. The kid looked exhausted up close. Pale, sunken under the eyes, fingers trembling slightly from caffeine or stress or both. You've been taking extra shifts. Why? Connor gave a short laugh. Hard to say no when no one else shows up. I've worked here 2 years. Feels like if I stop showing up, the whole place collapses. Have you asked for help? He shrugged. Asked who? Jonah. He'd just say I'm lucky to get the hours. Isaiah nodded slowly. You're not working any more doubles. If anyone pressures you, they're done. Understood, Connor blinked. Yeah, all right. Isaiah stood. Take the rest of the afternoon off. Paid, go home and sleep. Connor stared at him. For real, for real. He walked out a few minutes later, apron slung over one shoulder, and didn't look back. Isaiah returned to the floor. Olivia was managing the line, calling out drinks with a clipped but calm efficiency. Danny was on prep, her hands steady now that she wasn't fumbling with register buttons. The atmosphere was tense but not chaotic. People were watching him more openly now, some cautious, some confused. He gathered the remaining staff in the back room after the lunch rush. I need to say something, he began. Most of you know who I am now, but that's not why I'm here. They waited. I built this company to be something better than just another chain, but I let it run too long on autopilot. That ends now. He looked around the room. No one spoke. Some of you have been stepped on, others ignored. That's going to change, but I won't fix it from a distance. I'll be here, working with you, watching how we treat each other, not just for a day. For as long as it takes. A barista named Mason raised a hand. What about raises? We've had the same base pay for 1.5 years. Isaiah nodded. Compensation reviews are starting next week. Back pay included for anyone who's taken on additional roles unofficially. A prep worker in the corner asked, Are we getting rid of the cousin? Yes, Isaiah said. His contract is under review. He won't be returning. They looked at each other, unsure whether to believe him. I don't expect trust overnight, he continued. But I do expect honesty. If you see something broken, tell me. If a manager ignores you, tell me. If a customer crosses a line, tell me. He paused. And if you help someone behind the counter, even when no one's watching like Olivia did, you'll be recognized, not punished. He didn't wait for a response, just walked out, leaving the door open behind him. Later that day, he got word that Jonah had posted about his firing online, calling it retaliation. He ignored it. The facts spoke for themselves. He had documentation, witness reports, and store footage that showed weeks of neglect. He sent the legal team a full summary anyway, just in case. That evening, he stayed behind after close. Olivia was scrubbing the back counter. Danny was finishing the till count. Isaiah leaned against the mop sink. You ever think about running a store? He asked Olivia. She didn't answer at first. I used to, she said finally. Before I figured out what kind of people get promoted, he nodded slowly. I've got 3 stores opening next year. One of them's going to need a manager who doesn't flinch when things get hard. She turned to him. Are you offering me a store? I'm offering you a path, manager in training. Real pay, real authority. You'll shadow 2 GMs, then step into your own location once you're ready. Her eyes narrowed faintly like she didn't know whether to laugh or walk away. What's the catch? You hold me accountable too. If I miss something, you tell me. If I start drifting again, you call me out. She stared at him for a beat. All right, she said, but I'm not going to pretend things are fine when they're not. I wouldn't want you to. She nodded once and went back to wiping the counters. Near the register, Danny dropped a coin tray. Isaiah walked over to help her pick it up. He didn't say anything, just helped gather the change and set the tray back on the counter. She looked at him properly for the first time and said, "Thanks, not for the coins, for everything else." Isaiah just nodded. He locked up that night, walking out into the cold with his hands in his jacket pockets. Tomorrow, he'd be back, still undercover in a way, because trust wasn't built with press releases or policy memos. It was built behind the counter, one shift at a time. The following week brought a pace Isaiah hadn't felt in years, steady, deliberate, and relentlessly honest. He showed up each morning before open, now in a company polo with no title stitched into the chest. He worked register, cleaned floors, and took deliveries, not because anyone asked him to, but because he needed to feel what they felt. No optics, no press, just presence. By Wednesday, corporate had installed a temporary area manager, someone with no ties to the previous regime. She was sharp, no nonsense, and came from outside the company. Her first act was to schedule one-on-one interviews with every team member at Store 14, not evaluations conversations. Isaiah sat in on none of them. He didn't need to. He'd already heard enough. On Thursday, Olivia found a printed schedule taped to the break room cabinet. Her name was listed under Shift Lead Confirmed. No announcement, no ceremony, just a clear signal. It was hers now. She folded the paper once, stuck it in her back pocket, and got to work. That afternoon, a new hire walked in, a college student named Ray, quiet, observant, and early by 20 minutes. Olivia greeted him at the door and walked him through the station layout. Isaiah watched from behind the bar, noting how she adjusted her pace to match his. She didn't talk over him. She didn't rush. Later, as they restocked the syrup shelf, Isaiah asked, "How'd you learn to train like that?" She didn't look up. "By remembering what it feels like to be ignored." He nodded once. Friday brought the first team meeting under the new structure. Isaiah stood at the back, arms crossed. Olivia led it. "We're rebuilding," she began, "but that doesn't mean everything's broken. It just means we're not pretending anymore." She went over the basic safety protocols, prep station standards, how to report issues directly without fear of blowback. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't over-explain. When she finished, she asked if anyone had questions. Ray raised a hand. "What if we see something off and the manager's not around?" Olivia turned slightly. "You don't wait. You fix what you can, write it up, and leave a note. If it's serious, you text me. If it's bigger than me, you go straight to corporate. Nobody gets punished for doing the right thing." Isaiah watched the team lean in, not metaphorically. Literally. Shoulders angled forward, eyes focused. They weren't used to being spoken to that way. Not with clarity. Not with trust. Afterward, Isaiah walked with Olivia to the back to check the inventory sheets. She didn't speak until they reached the dry goods shelf. "You're not staying here forever, are you?" He pulled a clipboard from the hook. "No," she crossed her arms. "Where are you going?" "Everywhere else." She narrowed her eyes slightly. "How many stores are like this one?" He didn't answer immediately. "Too many." She nodded once, then stepped aside so he could pass. That evening, Isaiah met with Danny near closing. She'd asked for 5 minutes alone. They sat at the back table, her hands folded tightly in front of her. "I appreciate the station change," she said, "but I don't want it to be seen as a downgrade. I'm still fast. I still care." Isaiah leaned forward. "No one's questioning your value," she exhaled slowly. "People assume if your hands shake, your head does too." "They're wrong," he said. She nodded. "I just don't want to be invisible again." "You won't be." She looked at him for a moment, then stood and went back to cleaning the toaster oven without another word. Saturday morning brought a surprise. A woman in a pressed blazer appeared at the front counter just after 10. Isaiah recognized her head of HR. She ordered a tea, smiled at the staff, and pulled him aside. "The audit's complete," she said quietly. "You were right about the district manager. Fabricated reports, misused travel funds, and a personal bonus structure tied to under-budget labor targets." Isaiah kept his voice low. "Termination, effective yesterday. Legal's already handled it, and the store's under him. We're reassigning oversight." "You'll be part of the onboarding panel," he nodded. "Good, keep it quiet for now." She glanced toward the staff. "This team's stronger than most I've seen." He didn't respond. He didn't need to. By Sunday, the shifts ran smoother, not perfect, but better. The register line still backed up during the lunch rush. A grinder still clogged mid-shift. An order got double-charged, but no one panicked. No one vanished. Olivia delegated calmly. Ray handled his first solo register stretch. Danny prepped sandwiches with methodical ease. That evening, Isaiah gathered the team for one last huddle before the week reset. "I came here because I stopped believing reports," he began. "I didn't trust what I couldn't see." He looked at each of them as he spoke, slowly, intentionally. "You showed me what I'd forgotten." That culture isn't written in a handbook. It's built shift by shift, and it only holds if people at every level give a damn. No one looked away. He continued. "I won't be at this store next week, but that doesn't mean I'm gone. You'll see me again somewhere else. Doing exactly what I did here." He turned to Olivia. "You don't need me here anymore." She didn't argue. "Keep your standards. Protect your people. And if someone walks in trying to undo what you've built, you push back." He paused, then added, "You don't need permission to do what's right." He stepped away, leaving the floor to her. As he exited the cafe, the street outside buzzed with early evening traffic. He didn't linger. He didn't look back. Inside, Olivia called out the rest of the cleanup tasks. Ray stocked cups. Connor wiped down the bar. Danny marked expiration dates on the sandwich labels without needing to be reminded. The team moved as one. Imperfect, but aligned. At a corner table, the same woman in the wheelchair from the week before sipped her drink. Now seated with ease, no cart blocking the ramp, no delay at the door. She wasn't special treatment. She was just part of the place now, and that, Isaiah knew, was the real measure of change. Not announcements, not speeches, but respect carried out in the quiet details of an ordinary day.